Hello and welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Staggy,
I'm Jason Gandhi.
and today we will be doing our next edition of the NFL season previews. This time we will be talking about the Baltimore Ravens. So last year the Ravens had a pretty average season, going 8-8. Joe Flacco kind of struggled, not many weapons around him, 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions for him, and the Ravens ended up missing the playoffs. A tough division to play in the AFC North, but an underachieving season as they're used to some playoff success, especially with most of this roster still from a few years ago. So the Ravens, a pretty average year. But they made some moves in the offseason, for better or worse, on the offense especially. So Jason, what do you have for their depth chart in the offense?
So when you look at the quarterback spot, you've got Joe Flacco, still the guy there, and then the backup Ryan Mallett. So an okay quarterback room there. I think Flacco is a top 10, top 15 quarterback, somewhere in there. So in the top half in the league. And then running back wise, it's a lot of just mediocre guys. You've got Terrence West, Lorenzo Taliaferro, Danny Woodhead, Buck Allen. So guys that have potential to give you 100 yards, but you can't count on him. So a lot of mediocrity in the running back room, and the same thing in the wide receiving core, where you've got Rashad Perriman and Mike Wallace, Chris Moore, and Chris Matthews. So a lot of mediocrity throughout that offense of the Ravens, and even when you look at tight end and offensive line, they've got one or two names here and there: Crockett Gilmore, Ronnie Stanley, and Marshall Yanda. But besides that, it's pretty much mediocrity on the Ravens offense.
Yeah, the Ravens offense is not going to be looking too hot this year. A lot of guys missing, especially the big one, Steve Smith, who retired this offseason. But looking at the defense, their defensive line is not too good. They re-signed Brandon Williams, but besides that, not really too many guys to rush the passer. When you look at the linebackers, C.J. Mosley, really solid linebacker. Terrell Suggs, getting kind of up there in age, and really not much else besides that. The front seven is not going to be looking too hot. Not a lot of depth there for the Ravens. But if you move into their secondary, some pretty solid cornerbacks led by Jimmy Smith. Also got Brandon Carr and drafted Marlon Humphrey. They'll be a solid core this year. Safeties, they signed Tony Jefferson this offseason, and Eric Weddle will come back. Ladarius Webb is going to make the move from cornerback to safety for the Ravens. So overall in the defense, the front seven is not looking too good, but the secondary is looking solid. So the Ravens, pretty average defense this year, pretty average offense too.
Yeah, definitely. I think a word that sums up the Ravens is mediocre. Nothing really to get excited about, but it's not they're going to be like the Jets or Browns, which is just terrible. So really, the definition of average.
All right, so let's move into the schedule. We're going to go game by game and predict every win and loss for the Baltimore Ravens this year. So week 1, they travel to Cincinnati to play division rival Bengals. Jason, who do you think comes out on top in week 1?
I think the Ravens get the win there. I think that the Bengals have a lot of question marks on offense and defense, losing some offensive line pieces. So I think that the Ravens get that first win.
I think the Bengals get the victory. It is in Cincinnati. And I think the Bengals are a little bit better than the Ravens this year. So I'll take a win for the Bengals in week 1.
Okay, week 2, they're home for the Browns. Not really a competition. I think the Ravens win.
Yeah, I also have the Ravens with the win at home. No reason they should be losing to the Browns, especially that early in the season.
Yeah, then you go to week 3, and I have their first loss of the season to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, we've talked about it almost every podcast. I'm high on the Jaguars. Dan, Dylan are not. But I think the Jaguars are going to start off strong and get the win against the Ravens.
I think it'll be close, especially since it is at Jacksonville. But I think the Ravens, a more experienced squad, and I think Jacksonville will still be trying to figure some things out early in the season before they can get it rolling a little bit later. I still don't think they'll make the playoffs, though. But let's move into week 4. The Ravens back home for a Steelers matchup. big rivals, and they will be playing the Steelers at home. Jason, who do you have?
I have got the Steelers in a win, dropping the Ravens to 2-2. I think that the Steelers' offense is too much for a banged up Ravens defense.
Yeah, I also have the Steelers, and this one, like you said, the offense is going to be too much for the Steelers' offense is going to be too much for the Ravens' defense. I think the running game will definitely get going with the weak front seven for the Ravens this year. So we both have them at 2-2 after week 4. And week 5, the Ravens travel to play the Oakland Raiders. Jason, who do you have?
I've got the Raiders in a win. Derek Carr, Marshawn, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree are going to start clicking, and it'll be a blowout there in Oakland.
I also have a win for the Raiders. No reason the Raiders should be losing that game, especially since it is at home. In week 6, the Ravens come back home for a game against the lowly Chicago Bears. Any chance the Bears pull off an upset?
No, I've got the Ravens winning pretty handily, making them 3-3 on the year.
Yeah, I also have the Ravens in a win. I don't love the Ravens, but the Bears are going to be even worse this year. In week 7, they travel to Minnesota to play the Vikings, another pretty mediocre team this year. Who do you think gets the best of the mediocre teams?
I think that the Vikings get the win there. I think that Bridgewater start to figure it out with Latavius Murray. They've got some nice pieces there, so I like the Vikings.
Yeah, I also have the Vikings. I think they get their running game going. Latavius Murray has a breakout game, and the Vikings get the win. In week 8, the Ravens come back home to play the Miami Dolphins. Jason, who do you have there?
I've got the Ravens in this one. I think it's a little bit of an upset as the Ravens pull off the win against the Dolphins, putting them at 4-4 going into the week against the Titans.
I'm also going to go with a Ravens victory. It is at home, and I'm not super high on the Dolphins this year. I'll pick the Ravens there. So I have them at 4-4. Do you also have 4-4?
Yes.
All right. In week 9, they travel to Tennessee to play the Titans. Any chance the Ravens pull off the upset going to Tennessee?
No, I'm very high on the Titans and the Jags this year, so I think that the Titans get the win.
I also have the Titans in a win. It is at the Titans, and I think just more talent. Marcus Mariota will tear that Ravens defense up. After the Titans, the Ravens have a bye, and in week 10, they travel to Green Bay to play the Packers. Any chance that the Ravens can go into Green Bay and steal a win?
No, I think that the Packers win pretty handily.
Yep, I also have the Packers. Packers going to be a solid team this year again. In week 11, the Ravens have a home game versus the Houston Texans, another mediocre team this year. Jason, who do you have?
I like the Ravens in that one. Flacco goes off against the Texans defense and really shocks some people.
Yeah, I think Deshaun Watson will struggle, especially going on the road to play this Ravens secondary that's going to be pretty solid. He'll throw a couple picks, and the Ravens get the win. In week 12, the Detroit Lions come to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Jason, who wins that one?
Well, I think this is the start of a lot of losing for the Ravens. I think they lose to the Lions. I'm not that high on the Lions, but I think that they are better than the Ravens in that matchup. So the Ravens start that long streak of losing.
Yeah, I also have this as the beginning of a losing streak for the Ravens. Lions get the win, and the Ravens drop to 5-7. In Week 13, a tougher matchup as the Ravens travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Any chance for the Ravens there?
No. I think that the Steelers win pretty handily, and Big Ben goes off and starts to show their dominance as they get ready for the playoffs.
All right, in Week 14, another division matchup. The Ravens travel to Cleveland to play the Browns. Will the Browns pull off an upset?
No, I do like the Ravens winning here, but I think it'll be very close, and I just think it'll be like a game-winning field goal, something like that, the Ravens just get ahead.
I think the Browns pull off the upset. It is in Cleveland, a division matchup. and late in the season, neither team's going to have much to play for, but I think the Browns can pull off an upset at home and drop the Ravens to a 5-9 record. In week 15, the Ravens come back home to play the Colts. Jason, what do you think about that matchup?
I think the Colts get the win. I know I'm not very high on the Colts this year, but I think luck does enough to torch the Ravens defense.
Yeah, I also have the Colts. They'll be fighting for a playoff spot at this time. The Ravens will not. Colts more motivated and get the win. In Week 16, the last one, the Ravens are back home for a game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Who wins that one, Jason?
I like the Bengals getting the win to end the year for the Ravens at 6-10. I think the Bengals are going to be average as well, but they will be able to win their last game of the year.
I have a win for the Ravens in that one, a home game, and I think the Ravens will get the win. Also at 6-10 for me. So the Ravens not going to be looking too great this season. Pretty average team and drop to a 6-10 record, even worse than last season, as they have been regressing ever since making it to the Super Bowl against the 49ers. So a headline for the Ravens this season. Jason, what do you have?
End the mediocrity. I think they're just, like you kind of said, they've just kind of been average since the Super Bowl, and I don't think it ends this year, next year, the year after. So really try to end that mediocrity.
My headline is going to be not elite anymore. Of course, we always had the debate a few years ago, is Joe Flacco elite? I think that question's been answered. Not anymore. Even if you did think Joe Flacco was elite in the past, he's definitely not anymore, and the Ravens aren't giving him too many weapons to work with. The team is not looking too hot anymore, and the Ravens, again, are going to be mediocre this season, and we're going to have to start rebuilding through the draft. But speaking of mediocre teams, we decided to rank the best of the mediocre for our top five today. So our top five is going to be 7 to 9 win teams last year. Any team that finished with 7 wins, 8 wins, or 9 wins in the 2016 NFL season. We're going to rank those who can take the next step. Jason, who is your number five?
At number 5, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Carson Wentz and LeGarrette Blount as a nice little duo there with Alshon Jeffrey. And I just like that Eagles offense is a good little thing to build on and hopefully get them into the playoffs.
My number five, I'm also going to go with the Eagles. I don't think they make the playoffs, but they'll be on the bubble and will take a step in the right direction with Carson Wentz.
At number 4, I got the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford having a breakout year last year. Still not many pieces on offense, but will be improving and maybe get to 9-7, 10-6.
Yeah, the Lions with a 9-7 record last year. I also have them at my number four. I think they'll be about the same this year and kind of take a step in the same direction. Not really better, but not really worse. Still a solid team.
At number 3, I've got the Arizona Cardinals. I think that Palmer and Fitzgerald will get back to their brand of football. David Johnson, the second or third best running back in the game. Lots to like there for the Cardinals. I think they get back on track and get in the playoffs.
Really, I'm not loving the Cardinals this year. I think they did have a down year. I think their offense will be better, but losing pieces like Calais Campbell on defense, I don't.
To the Jaguars. I'm saying.
On
Watch out for
paper,
the
they
Jags.
they look great on paper, Jason, but that's what we said last year too. At my number three, I'm gonna go with the Tennessee Titans. Marcus Mariota and company will have a better year this year and continue to improve and be competing for a playoff spot in 2017.
All right. At my number 2, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really like what they're putting down there in Tampa with Jameis Winston. I think is going to make another huge step. Now you've got Doug Martin there, the running back, if you're set on him. And at the receiving core, you've got Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and now O.J. Howard. That Bucs offense is going to be scary.
At my number 2, I'm going to go with my Indianapolis Colts. 8-8
Jokes.
last year, and a much improved defense. The offensive line should be better, as most of them were rookies last year. Have a chance to grow together and be better this year. Wide receivers still the same. T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief. Moncrief in a contract year will play well, and I think my Colts can improve to 10-6 or 9-7.
Yeah, I'm not buying that hype. So at my number 1 spot, I've got the Tennessee Titans. I think they will win the division this year in the AFC South. I like what Mariota's working there. All it takes is him to stay healthy. Murray and Henry are a scary running back duo. And then you've got some other nice pieces, including Corey Davis out there at receiver. And that's why I think the Titans are the best up-and-coming team of the average teams last year.
All right, my number 1, Jason mentioned it at his number 2. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will continue to improve and make the playoffs this year and possibly win 1 or 2 games in the playoffs. I'm buying the Bucs this year.
Yeah, I like that. I think the Bucs are definitely going to be a special team that I think people are going to have to look out for when maybe they kind of got overlooked in the past. So, looking at what's coming up next for the sports sermon, we have got a finals recap whenever the finals do end, whether it's tonight whether it's tomorrow night, if that's the case. But we will have that finals recap for you, as well as we will be doing the Sacramento Kings, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Phoenix Suns in the NBA. I can guarantee you those will be good ones. And then on the NFL side, we will do the Cleveland Browns and then get into the AFC South with the Colts and Texans. So that's what you've got coming up on the Sports Sermon.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you want to see the rest of our NFL season previews or our NBA What's Next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on Twitter. On Twitter, we'll post every time we post a new video or an article on our website. So make sure you check that out, and we will see you guys tomorrow with the Sacramento Kings.
I would